It started with a photograph, a simple black and white frame on a forgotten hallway wall, until she realized the little girl in the picture was her. How could a billionaire's mansion hold a photo from a childhood Rachel couldn't even remember? She was never supposed to see it, and someone made sure it disappeared the next night. But it was too late. The memory had been awakened. The questions had already taken root. And as Rachel dug deeper, she uncovered a buried family secret so dangerous it had been hidden behind power, lies, and locked doors for nearly 2 decades. Why did her parents vanish without a trace? Why had her name been erased? And who was the man now living in the house that should have been hers? One truth would shatter everything. But would you dare to chase it? Stay until the end, because the final twist will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about family, betrayal, and the cost of silence. Rachel Morgan had served at dozens of high-end events before, but nothing had prepared her for the night she stepped into the Asheford estate. The mansion loomed in the golden twilight like a relic from another century, grand, cold, untouchable. Located just outside Savannah, Georgia, the estate belonged to William Asheford, a man whose last name whispered through boardrooms and political circles with equal weight. Rachel had heard rumors about him, brilliant, ruthless, and untouchable. She wasn't here for secrets. She was here to pour champagne. Keep your eyes down, no conversations with guests, and stay out of the private wings, the head butler snapped as she stepped off the catering van. Rachel nodded politely, hiding the flicker of resentment beneath her calm demeanor. She needed this paycheck. Rent was due, and her part-time waitressing jobs in Maplewood didn't cover much. At 23, Rachel was no stranger to survival. Raised by kind but struggling adoptive parents, she'd never known anything about her past before the shelter found her at 5. She never asked. What would be the point? The past was lost, or so she thought. The Asheford Gala was a spectacle, chandeliers dripping like crystal rain, the hum of string quartets, and women in gowns that probably cost more than her annual salary. Rachel moved through the crowd with practiced grace, balancing flutes of sparkling wine, avoiding eye contact, and trying not to gawk at the opulence that surrounded her. But something felt off. The air in the estate carried a tension she couldn't name. It wasn't just wealth. It was silence layered over something deeper, something buried. Then she saw it, a corridor, narrow, dimly lit, and oddly quiet. It jutted off the main hall, like a forgotten branch of a story no one wanted to tell. Every instinct told her to stay in the service area, but something else, something deeper, pulled her forward. What would you do if you felt something calling you down a hallway you weren't supposed to enter? Would you trust your gut or your curiosity? Rachel stepped cautiously into the corridor. The lights flickered slightly, casting long antique shadows across portraits of stern-faced men and elegant women. The Asheford lineage, no doubt. Their gazes followed her like whispers echoing off the walls. And then she froze. Halfway down the hall in a thin black frame hung a photograph that didn't belong. It was of a little girl, brown curls, dimpled cheeks, a tiny scar just above the right eyebrow. Rachel's tray tilted slightly in her hands. It was her, not someone who looked like her. Not a coincidence. It was her, same eyes, same childhood dress, the same scar she still had. But how? She had never been inside this estate in her life. How could a photo from before she was adopted be hanging in a billionaire's mansion? Had someone followed her life from the shadows? Could this be some elaborate mistake? Or had she just uncovered a piece of her past that was never meant to be found? The sound of footsteps snapped her out of the trance. She darted back to the ballroom, heart hammering. The rest of the night passed in a blur, glasses clinking, laughter echoing, but Rachel could only hear the pulse in her ears and the silent scream of that photo calling her back. Later that night, in the kitchen during a lull, she found herself near Doris Hill, the estate's head cook. "You've worked here a long time, right?" Rachel asked casually, trying to keep her voice steady. Doris didn't look up from chopping vegetables. "Long enough to know this house has more secrets than recipes, honey." Rachel hesitated. "And the Asheford family? Have they always lived here?" Doris paused, then sighed. "This place has been in their bloodline for generations. William Ashford inherited it after his brother Jonathan and sister-in-law died in a car crash. Tragic. Rachel's heart dropped. A car crash? That night, back in her modest apartment in Maplewood, Rachel couldn't sleep. The image of the little girl, her, kept replaying in her mind. She stared into her coffee the next morning, across from her adoptive mother, Margaret. "Mom, do you remember anything about where I came from? Before the adoption?" Margaret's spoon stopped mid-stir. "That's an odd question, sweetheart. Why?" I saw a photo, at the event, of me, as a kid, but I've never been to that house before." Margaret set her mug down slowly. "Rachel, we don't know much. The social workers said your parents died in a car crash. You were found in a shelter around age 5. That's all they told us. Another crash. Another coincidence. Or was it?" Rachel needed answers. The next evening, she returned to the Ashford estate, this time under a new catering assignment. But her real goal wasn't pouring drinks. It was that hallway. She waited until guests were distracted, then slipped back to where she'd seen the photo. It was gone. The wall was bare. No photo. No frame. Nothing. Was it ever really there? Or had someone removed it? Someone who saw her looking? She rubbed her eyes, heart racing. No. She remembered every detail. That was her. Someone knew she had seen it. But who? And why would they hide it? Rachel returned to the kitchen with a pit in her stomach. Every smile from a guest now looked like a mask. Every glance from the staff felt like a warning. Someone was watching. She didn't know who. She didn't know why. But one thing was certain. Her past wasn't lost. It had been buried. And now someone was trying to make sure it stayed that way. What would you do if a forgotten photo revealed a past you never knew existed? Do you think someone in the estate deliberately removed the picture to silence her? Could Rachel truly be connected to the powerful Ashford family? Or is this just a cruel coincidence? The photo was gone. The empty space where it once hung was a cold, silent scream. Rachel stood there for several seconds, heart thudding, unsure whether to cry or scream. Had she imagined it? No, she could still picture it perfectly. The curls, the scar, the smile that once belonged to a life she never remembered living. But now someone knew she'd seen it. Back in the kitchen, the clatter of silverware and the hum of idle gossip couldn't drown out the growing panic in her chest. She wasn't paranoid. Someone had deliberately removed the photograph, and that meant someone was watching her. But who? Rachel didn't know how far this went, how deep the secrets of the Ashford estate ran, but she could feel it in her bones. The truth was dangerous, and if she kept digging, she might uncover more than she could handle. That night, she sat across from her adoptive mother again, the question burning her tongue. "Mom," she said carefully, "you said I was found at a shelter after a car crash?" Margaret blinked. "Yes, that's what the social worker told us. Why?" Rachel hesitated. What if that wasn't the whole story? A shadow crossed Margaret's face. She looked away. "We never asked for details. We just wanted you to feel safe, loved. We didn't want to stir anything up." Rachel's voice trembled. "But what if something was taken from me?" Margaret gently reached across the table. "Then it's your right to find it." Rachel couldn't sleep. The image of the vanished photo kept flickering in her mind like a ghost. She began digging online. Old newspaper archives, obituaries, social registries. It was like chasing smoke. Every mention of Jonathan and Elizabeth Ashford was brief, sterile. No mention of a daughter, no family photos, nothing personal, as if someone had erased them. But then, buried in an old society column, she found a name she didn't recognize. Clara Jenkins, listed as the longtime housekeeper of the Ashford family before William took over the estate. Clara had retired years ago, but Rachel managed to trace her to a small cottage just outside Savannah. The next morning she made the drive, unsure of what she was walking into. The woman who opened the door had soft eyes and a slow, wary smile. "You must be Rachel," she said quietly. "Come in. I was wondering how long it would take." Rachel blinked. You know who I am?" Clara nodded, motioning her inside. I recognized you the moment I saw that Gala photo in the papers. You're the spitting image of your mother. Rachel's breath caught. Elizabeth Ashford? Clara nodded again. We used to call you Ray. You'd run through the garden in a yellow dress, laughing like the world belonged to you. Why don't I remember any of it? Rachel whispered. Clara sat down slowly. Because someone didn't want you to. The silence between them felt thick enough to drown in. Clara continued, her voice like gravel, soaked in sorrow. After the crash, there was chaos. The media barely touched it, but everyone close to the estate knew something didn't add up. Your parents, they didn't just die. They were silenced. And you, well, your body was never found. Rachel's heart twisted. So everyone just believed I died with them? Clara leaned in. Some suspected otherwise. But anyone who asked too many questions disappeared. William moved in fast, took over the estate, the family business, the foundation, almost like he was waiting for the moment. Rachel's hands shook. Why didn't he come looking for me? Clara's eyes darkened. Because the moment he found out you survived, everything he took would fall apart. It was too much to process. Rachel felt like her entire identity had been built on sand, and it was all slipping beneath her feet. Her past wasn't just hidden. It had been stolen. Her very existence had been erased. But one question pounded louder than the rest. Was her mother truly gone? Clara, is there any chance my mother survived? Clara hesitated. I don't know. After the crash, there were rumors that Elizabeth was injured but not dead, that someone took her. But those were just whispers, nothing confirmed. William shut it all down. Rachel left Clara's house with her heart in her throat and a storm brewing in her soul. Her life, her memories, even her name, it was all a lie. But now she had a thread, a fragile thread of truth, and she wasn't going to let it snap. She returned to the Asheford estate again, her third visit under the guise of a catering assignment. But this time, she moved differently, calculated, watching every face, listening between words. In the staff hallway, she found Franklin Reed, the security guard she'd briefly seen before. He was drinking coffee alone, eyes scanning the monitors. Rachel approached carefully. Mr. Reed, you've been here a long time, haven't you? 23 years, he said without looking up, back before Mr. William inherited the place. Do you remember what happened to his brother? Franklin turned, eyeing her with a mix of curiosity and caution. Jonathan? Yeah, him and his wife died in a car crash. Tragic. Did they have a daughter? That made him pause. He looked away for a long moment. Then slowly, some say they did. But she disappeared after the accident. No one ever found her. Do you think she died too? Rachel asked, barely able to breathe. He shrugged. That's the thing. Some folks think she lived, got taken somewhere. Others say William made sure she vanished. Rachel's skin prickled. Why would he do that? Franklin's voice dropped. Because power doesn't ask questions. And around here, the less you ask, the longer you live. That night, Rachel lay in bed staring at the ceiling, heart pounding. Every piece was fitting together. Horrifyingly, she had a name, a history, a stolen life. And if the rumors were true, maybe even a living mother. But the most dangerous part? William knew. And now he might know that she knew. What would you do if your identity had been stolen to protect a lie? Do you think Rachel's mother might still be alive, hidden away like she was? Is William Ashford the mastermind behind it all? Or is there someone else still pulling strings? The deeper Rachel dug, the darker it got. She could feel it, like the walls of the Ashford estate were alive, watching her. The chandeliers no longer sparkled with elegance. They hung above her like frozen eyes. The corridors, once pristine and polished, now felt like they were hiding something behind every corner. She wasn't just chasing answers anymore. She was chasing the truth someone had tried to kill. The whispers of her mother's possible survival gnawed at her. Could Elizabeth Ashford still be alive somewhere? And if so, why had no one come for Rachel? What had William done to make the world forget she ever existed? But one detail from Clara Jenkins kept ringing in her ears. William keeps everything valuable in one place, his private study. That's where the past goes to disappear. So Rachel waited. She played the role of obedient server a fourth time, blending in behind white aprons and silver trays, until she overheard the one thing she needed. William would be leaving for a business trip in 2 days. She had her window. When the night came, the estate was quiet. Too quiet. The other staff had gone home or were asleep in the servants' quarters. Rachel slipped inside wearing her catering uniform, but instead of heading to the kitchen, she climbed the sweeping staircase to the forbidden third floor. The door to William's study creaked as she pushed it open. Dust danced in the sunlight that filtered through tall windows. The air smelled of cigar smoke and old paper. A grand mahogany desk sat at the center, flanked by shelves stuffed with books that hadn't been touched in years. And there, behind a painting of Jonathan Asheford, was it irony or guilt? She found it. A digital safe. Her fingers trembled. She remembered what Franklin Reed had said in passing. William never forgot the day his brother died. He obsesses over it. Rachel punched in the numbers. 04092005. Click. The lock released with a dull groan. The safe opened. Inside were stacks of documents, leather-bound ledgers, old USB drives, and one cream-colored envelope sealed with a gold insignia. Her hands hovered over it like it might burn her. The handwriting on the front. To my daughter, Ray. Rachel nearly dropped it. She opened the letter slowly, her breath shallow, her pulse roaring in her ears. My sweet Ray, if you're reading this, it means something has gone terribly wrong. The words spilled across the page like a mother's last breath. Her parents had feared William, suspected he wanted full control of the family fortune. They'd tried to protect her. They even knew they were being watched. The letter begged Rachel not to trust her uncle. You are not forgotten. You are Evelyn Rachel Ashford. You are our everything. Never let him erase you. Tears streamed down Rachel's cheeks. For the first time in her life, she knew who she was. But before she could breathe, a sound stopped her cold. A footstep, then another. The door creaked. Rachel turned. William stood in the doorway. His face didn't show surprise, only calculation. I was wondering when you'd come looking, he said calmly, like he'd been waiting for this. Rachel squared her shoulders, even as her hands trembled behind her back. I know who I am now. I know what you did to my parents. William tilted his head, amused. You think anyone will believe the word of a waitress over mine? You were a mistake, Rachel, like your father. Too soft to lead. I have proof, she said, pulling the letter from her coat. And I'm not alone. The truth will come out. William's eyes darkened. Then I'm afraid you won't be walking out of here. Before he could move, Rachel bolted. She sprinted down the hallway as William shouted for security, gripping the envelope and documents like they were oxygen. Her heart pounded as she burst through the back entrance, keys shaking in her hand as she leapt into her car. She didn't stop driving until she reached downtown Savannah. There, at a small cafe near the river, she met someone who'd been waiting for a lead like hers for years. Aaron Blake, an investigative journalist who had spent the better part of a decade trying to crack the Ashford legacy. Within 48 hours, the story exploded. Scandal at Ashford Estate, inheritance fraud, and cover-up exposed. William's empire began to crumble, one headline at a time. But the biggest shock hadn't come yet. A week later, a news segment aired a blurred clip of a woman being escorted from a private psychiatric clinic just outside Nashville. Frail, gray-haired, lost in her own mind. Rachel knew that face instantly. She dropped everything and drove across state lines. At St. Mercy Psychiatric Clinic, she stood in a sterile room with buzzing fluorescent lights and sterile white walls. A woman sat by the window, humming softly. "Mom," Rachel whispered. The woman turned slowly. Her eyes met Rachel's. "Ray," she breathed. Rachel ran into her arms and they collapsed together, sobbing in the kind of silence that only comes after years of being stolen. Elizabeth had survived, but William had hidden her away, declared her dead, and used trauma-induced amnesia to erase her from the world. Until now. Rachel testified in court. Her documents, her mother's statement, and a decade of fraud exposed William for what he was. He was sentenced, stripped of his legacy, and the Ashford name, once a symbol of wealth, became a cautionary tale. Rachel didn't reclaim the estate. She didn't want the money. Instead, she and her mother moved to a quiet corner of North Carolina, where they opened a center for orphan children, a place where no child would grow up forgotten like she had, because the past doesn't disappear, it is the waiting. What would you have done if you found a letter from a parent thought to be dead? Do you believe William acted alone, or was someone else involved in covering up the truth? If you were Rachel, would you have confronted William face to face, or walked away with the evidence? What do you think of Rachel's story? If it moved you, comment 3 below. If you feel something was missing, drop a 1. And if it felt average to you, type 2. Tell us what country you're watching from. And don't forget to share this story with someone who needs to hear it. The truth always finds a way.